This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings and all things Chicago Blackhawks. With your hosts, Jordan Linscott, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. This is the Stick Blade Podcast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. It is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings, all things Chicago Blackhawks, and news around the NHL. Normally, this is a podcast that is split about half and half for the Red Wings and the Blackhawks, but after the week that was for the Chicago Blackhawks with the town hall, with the Rockford Ice Hogs information that came out, I don't really think it's appropriate to really try to make this a happy episode this week. There was a lot that happened that was not fun for the Hawks, and honestly, there's not a lot of Wings news anyway. I'm your host for the night, Jordan Linscott, and I've got my co-hosts with me, Tim Stompanato, David Barnhouse, and Nick LePage. So, fellas, we're gonna get into the Blackhawks whole town hall, Rocky Wirtz outburst, Rockford Ice Hogs information that came out this week. We'll get to that in just a second. Really quick, we should have two pieces of Wings news to talk about, and this will take like 2 minutes. First, Dylan Larkin still holds the record for the fastest skater from the All-Star All-Star weekend challenges that they have, skills competitions. They had him and McDavid go up against each other. Dylan Larkin still holding that title. No change there. The other piece of news, though, the Wings sent Joe Veleno down to Grand Rapids to basically continue getting reps and, getting practice. I think in 2 games, is it 2 games he's got a goal and 3 assists or 2 goals and 4 assists?
Oh, gosh.
But either way, ridiculous production numbers. Joe Veleno is not an AHL player anymore. This kid is a certified NHL caliber player. And that's really it for Wings news this week. I mean, David, I think this was apparent before we even sent Joe Veleno down to Grand Rapids that he's not AHL caliber anymore.
No, he's continued to show growth, even though he's been playing, third line minutes. But at the same time, our lines get jumbled so much that our third line starts against other teams' first lines lately. We've been seeing Rasmussen going up against first line talent just because we can try to shut them down. But Veleno's look good. His people were freaking out that he got sent down to the Griffins, even though they even wrote All-Star Weekend. They sent him down to keep playing and keep doing what he's doing. And he shows he knows what he's doing with the stats he's putting up in the AHL. He's not going back to the Griffins, people. It was just for him to play.
That's the thing. It's literally this kid needs to continue getting practice, and the sample size shows he's not due for the AHL. He's NHL certified caliber player. He should be a piece for the Wings, long term. He should be here when we're trying to reach the mountain again. This was literally just hey, rather than have you sit for 2 weeks, we would rather you go play in the AHL, continue to, get practice, get, high quality reps. That's all this was.
You down with JFV? Yeah, you know me.
The All-Star competition with Larkin, like I said, Dylan Larkin still holds the record, whether, people want to be like, oh, the running start was unfair. No changes so far, though. Dylan Larkin still holds that record.
Yep, he does. And by a good amount, too. I don't think anyone came very close this weekend with it.
Mm-mm.
And then he had 2 pretty nice little breakaway goals in the breakaway challenge. Nothing compared to Zegras's blindfolded goal.
I mean, nothing compared. Even DeBrinket's delightful "Who Let the Dogs Out" Wolfpack of 1 did not. Nobody can compare to Zegras. He just lit the league on fire.
John Hamm's made an enemy out of me. What kind of judge just gives it to Petrangelo for that? Come on.
Well, one that's shaded by the Blues.
You put a 1 and a 9 next to each other. You can't do that. I've watched competitions. You can't just take 2 cards.
They've got laws against that. Yeah, John Hamm.
John Hamm.
I question where he got his judge certificate, frankly.
Phoenix University.
ITT
Tech.
It's where the Coyotes are going to play next year. Gotta burn another franchise right now because mine's on fire.
So we're joking right now, but something did happen this week with the Hawks that was not a joke.
Yeah, we're joking because I'm genuinely very, very upset inside.
Like everyone here is laughing, but it's not laughing because the situation's funny. It's laughing because you don't know how it's going to get worse.
It will.
Like
it continues to. When I think we have hit rock bottom, every week there's something new.
So for anyone who hasn't been paying attention to like what's been going on with the Hawks, the past year or so, the whole sexual assault allegations came out, and was it Jenner and Block had the report?
Yep.
Basically, they went through the whole like timeline sort of events that happened. And what was it? Just a couple of months ago, actually, Kyle Beach's name came out as one of the players who was assaulted. And so the Blackhawks this week hosted a town hall, and, the town hall is supposed to be transparency. Fans and media get questions answered. The idea is you're going in front of people, you're answering questions that people want answers to. The conference was going okay until the whole, I don't want to say the Kyle Beach incident, but just.
Well, I would like to jump in as we're painting this picture. It's important to remember that the town hall, and for those of you listening, this town hall wasn't exclusively to talk about the sexual assault, the report, Kyle Beach, anything like that. It was a town hall to establish, like Jordan said, transparency within the organization, a new era of transparency that especially Danny Wirtz and Jamie Faulkner have been pushing for. And while they were prepared to answer a litany of questions, whether it's business or hockey related, they had to also be prepared that the biggest scandal and story in franchise history, there was going to be questions, especially opening up this availability that Rocky Wirtz has not, the owner of the franchise, has not had since COVID started and we were in the playoff bubble in Edmonton. And so as questions are answering and the town hall is going, Jordan, like you said, this town hall is actually going successfully well. They've been navigating questions very well. Questions on Pat Foley's retirement, I thought they addressed pretty good. Questions about tickets and whatnot, and what we can do for season ticket holders. Then the question that should have been expected and inevitable to anyone apparently outside of the Wirtz family, Mark Lazarus of The Athletic gave what we all on this call have agreed a softball question highlighting, hey, in light of this sexual assault, not even allegation anymore, it's been proven, he didn't even mention, I don't believe, Kyle Beach by name. It simply was a question of, we want to hear, in the sake of transparency, in this, what this whole town hall is about, what steps are you taking moving forward to create a more inclusive culture, a more supportive culture, to make sure that you're being proactive and this doesn't happen again? Arguably the most reasonable question you could ask, and a great way to segue into all the positives and the hard work that the organization is doing that could have won a lot of fans back.
Mm-hmm. So for anybody who didn't watch this segment of the town hall, basically Mark Lazarus of The Athletic, he gets his chance, to ask a question. And first off, he directs the question at Danny.
Yep. The
Danny
CEO
Wirtz
of the organization who's been driving the transparency.
Mm-hmm. But so basically he says, he's talking about, like what happened to Kyle Beach was basically, like it's a power imbalance between a coach and a player.
Mm-hmm.
And so he asks, what are the Blackhawks doing? What have they done? And what are they going to do moving forward to make sure that, like you said, Tim, that doesn't happen again? Rocky Wirtz takes the question, hijacks it, says, I'm going to answer the question. And then he basically says, the report speaks for itself. Those people aren't here anymore. We're not looking back at, that 2010. We're looking forward. Mark Lazarus says that, like in his question, he's not talking about 2010. He's looking at what are they doing going forward and right now. Wirtz replies, we're not going to talk about what happened. We're moving forward. That's his answer. And then Danny Wirtz goes to, basically expand, say, hey, I'm going to add a little bit. Rocky cuts him off, and then this was where it went from bad to awful, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Rocky Wirtz says, "No, that's none of your business. What we're doing today is our business. It's not your business."
It's
And
it's a nightmare.
he says it's not your business because you don't work for the company. And he basically says they're not going to talk about Kyle Beach. They're not going to talk about anything that happened. They're moving forward. And he just kind of gets smart with him, asking, what more do I have to say? You want to keep asking the same questions? And then he flips out on, who is it, Thompson of the Chicago Sun-Times?
Bill Thompson.
Tribune.
Or Tribune, sorry. But basically flips out on him as well, kind of the same vein of questioning. There is so much here to unpack with what Rocky Wirtz said.
Go ahead.
I want to start with, I think, the most important thing here. The worst part about this whole thing is that Rocky Wirtz specifically said, we're not looking back, we're looking forward. That basically, at least in my opinion, comes off as we're not going to really acknowledge that. We're just brushing it to the side.
Yep, that's how I feel too.
It's the single most tone deaf thing you could do as you're trying to rebuild trust and respect among your fan base. Like, I get that, reporters and fans aren't members of the organization, but this business, it is of the community, and the fans are essentially a part of the organization in the fact that we support them, and it is our business to know what they're doing so we can feel comfortable supporting them. Rocky Wirtz saying that's in the past, we're not going to address it. If you don't acknowledge the past, how in God's name can you think to move forward? And also, it's such a slap in the face to anyone who's dealt with a sexual assault or an assault of any kind that has any trauma, where it's like, well, we've moved on. You are not the one in the position to say when it's time to not talk about it anymore, to be entirely honest. And what scares me with this whole thing is the immediate shutdown of everything, the anger, the emotion there, that I'm going to take this question, I'm going to silence my son and CEO when he tries to interject and save this. Rocky Wirtz's behavior is the epitome of the power imbalance that Mark Lazarus was asking about. No matter what happens after that, how can a fan feel good, myself included, who has been wrestling with this for a week now? It's a slap in the face to everyone that tried to stand by and weather this storm.
Yeah, I mean, how unprepared are you? Like, I know Danny probably had a very reasonable response. He seemed like he was ready to respond.
Yeah,
he was willing to respond.
Tried.
Yeah, I mean, he literally was putting forth the effort, and Rocky just shut him up. But how unprepared are you? This is coming.
The question was for Danny.
Yeah, I know, but still, you've known this town hall was happening for 2 weeks now. You knew this question was coming, and you still have a response in that matter. It's a joke. I don't understand. Oh, it's good.
People haven't forgotten. This is one of the biggest news stories to come out, and this was a decade of information that came out. It wasn't it was just oh, he got assaulted last week and we just figured out. This has been going on for over a decade,
and
almost.
It goes against all their it was preached about hey, this is when the Hawks become more transparent. This is how we're gonna.
And
you cleaned out almost the entire front office.
Pretty much.
Your former coach lost his job at another team.
It's not like they don't have PR people. What scares me is the fact that I think that they did have, Rocky did have a canned response, or that Danny was supposed to handle that question when it came to him, or Jamie Faulkner, whoever, and they were prepared for it, and Rocky went rogue. That's my concern, because then if he's comfortable doing that in front of cameras, in front of tons of people who are going to report on it, what is he doing behind closed doors? that's what I wrestle with, is that I think he went rogue and we saw a glimpse of what he really thinks opposed to what he is saying most of the time.
This is completely a different connection, but it made me think of the original Iron Man movie.
Okay.
The final scene where they're like talking to Tony, like, they're going to ask you about the Iron Man suit. They're going to ask you, just here's your speech. And I'm sure the same thing with Rocket. Like we're going to hear this question asked. Here's what you need to say. Here's what you need to say. Tony just was, nope. Here's what I'm going to say, and just said it. And that's the same with Rocky. He's like, I don't give a shit. I own this team.
And where Tony Stark became a lovable hero, Rocky Wirtz spat in the eye of everyone, and now we hate him more than we hated Dollar Bill Wirtz, which I know people that celebrated when he died. Like,
no, I mean that's what I was gonna say. Like, for a man that was like,
he was the
raped. Yeah, I mean, he essentially saved hockey in Chicago. It was a dying sport. It was a dying sport, and for a legacy that he once had, it's like nobody gives a fuck about that anymore. Sorry.
There's our explicit for the week.
Yeah. But nobody cares about that anymore. Like, it's you ruined your own legacy by having by
meltdown.
The case and this meltdown.
By behaving like a petulant child that, he got in trouble and somebody brought up the fact that he got in trouble. How's he going to learn from it? And he said, I didn't learn a thing. What's even more frustrating is that Danny Wirtz later talks about, he released a statement on Thursday, the day after, talking about how the Blackhawks have created a mental health department available to players and employees. They've created an employee-led committee focused on the organization's culture and taking a zero tolerance approach to reports of non-compliance. Like, they have tangible things that they're doing. This isn't all just like a canned response he could have done. Danny could have talked about the actual steps they're taking. And Rocky Wirtz said, no, we're not going to give that to people. We're just going to sweep it under the rug, which that's the whole thing that we're upset about, is sweeping something under the rug.
I mean, it's no wonder why they kept a muzzle on that old man for the last 2 years.
Why he's been silent,
because whenever shit comes out of his mouth, it's just spewing. Like, it's just stuff that you don't want to hear. And the Blackhawks are obviously trying to, rebrand. They're as much as we don't want to think it, they're rebranding. Like, it's
sure.
Yeah, and it sucks. Like I said, like the guy essentially saved hockey for Blackhawks fans, but now he doesn't want to be open with them.
Here's the thing, and I'm a firm believer of this. It's easy to say the right things and be positive and like all that jazz when things are good. You see the mettle of a person when the chips are down, and Rocky showed us who he was in a time of stress and emotion, and it wasn't good. He wasn't hiding there.
No, I mean, go ahead, Jordan.
No, I was just saying, like, in my opinion, the worst part, or like one of the worst parts about his response, was his answer was a non-answer, right? When they said, so Lazarus's question was kind of like a 3-part answer question, right?
Yeah.
What have you done? What are you doing? What are you doing in the future? When it comes to like, what have you done? He said they're not with the organization anymore. That's like parents leaving their kid, home alone for 2 weeks. And then they come home and the dog is sick and the parents ask what happened. The kid said, well, I don't know. I gave him food and water.
And like, Joe Quenneville was fired, not in relation to this. We still don't know why McDonough was fired, and I'm very curious about that. But McDonough was let go long before everything. The only ones that actually, like, the organization itself removed in the face of everything were Stan Bowman, who resigned, but that was a contractual thing. That was actually the better move. And Al McIsaac. That's not enough, because when you say, well, they're no longer with the organization, you had 10 years to like, and again, where's the HR person that also covered this up? Because in that report, it is very clear that it was reported to HR later. And it was also like, I don't know, there's a lot of levels in here that like, there's a lot of checks and balances that didn't work. But like, all you have to do is speak to like, okay, they're gone. Great. how are you going to keep this from happening again? That's all people want to know. And like the couple of little things that Danny talked about would have been enough for the town hall, frankly.
Tim, have you ever thought about being the Hawks PR person?
Yeah, actually, I looked at that when I was on the job market. They were doing a PR spot a couple of months ago, and I legitimately thought about it because I have a PR background and a communication background. Yeah, it's up again. Don't
That's
think
a
I
job
was.
nobody wants.
Yeah. Oh, now.
I'll apply.
Yeah, that's a nuclear. I don't want to be anywhere near that. But seriously, what good is PR if at the end of the day, the people that you're trying to help spin won't help themselves, get out of their own way? At this point, the best thing for Rocky Wirtz to save his investment and his business is to get out of the way, to remove himself as the face, remove himself as the chairman, and let Danny take over, because it's bad business at that point. Take the moral argument out of it, take the ethics out of it, because it's clearly not working for them. Dollars and cents, they are going to lose money on this. They're going to lose support, advertising. Get out of your own way, if for no other reason than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's at this point where it's clear that all Rocky sees in this is just it used to be about a good culture. It used to be about winning. It used to be about the team.
Yeah.
Now he just sees it as a money grab. Like this is his,
so gross.
This is his cash cow. And now, yeah, I think Danny needs to be like Rocky needs to be out of the picture completely.
He has to be.
There's no other option but to get rid of the guy. And obviously you can't because he's the owner, but like,
well, he's the owner and the chairman.
Yeah,
that's a double power position that, like,
for the better of the organization, though, he needs to see it. If I shut up and just step away, I will make my money. But
yeah, don't talk.
But he's an old man. He's one of those old whatever they call him.
It's the grumpy old, like, they're coming for me, and it's like, no. No, we're actually looking to you to like set a tone and like do the right thing. We're not coming for you. Yeah.
And we know you've been exonerated for this already. Like,
right. The report, they got out of it unscathed. We were still hoping for Rocky Wirtz to like do the right thing. And certainly this is not the only sports owner that I think is garbage. And it's almost like, you know, if you've got the money to own a sports team a lot, like the Bruins have a garbage owner. Obviously, Ottawa is well documented. Like, I'm not a fan of the Ricketts. Like, it's not, you know, throughout sports, that is a reoccurring theme, unless you're like the Illiches or like there's a couple other like sports owners that are cool. But this is right now, you know, it's one thing for Melnick to be cheap and kind of garbage. The same with the Boston owners. This is a whole other level that is bad for ethics, bad for PR, and bad for business. And that's a trifecta of unfortunate, like, there's no excusing any of it.
The only way that he's going to listen to, like, he clearly didn't want to listen to the media or the fans the other night. Only way to get him to listen is by making his pockets hurt a little bit.
That's it. And again, he's got his booze empire, so
he's still
not gonna.
But like, that's the only way he's gonna listen.
And money talks.
What booze does he own?
It's a distribution company. Like, it's one of the only places you can get like liquor license distribution for alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but it's just like, it's at this point, like, that's the only way you're gonna speak to him. I know I said this before about when I wanted the Hawks to fire McDonough and Bowman back like 2 years ago.
Sure.
But that's the only way to get these guys to listen, is because that's the only thing they care about. Like, oh man, it's infuriating. And then who's gonna want to work for this guy?
That's
we've all had shitty bosses. Like if I'm a player, and I feel bad for these guys. Like,
we saw Panarin come out like a couple of months ago talking about how he was between New York and Vancouver, and one of the reporters for Vancouver was enough for him to be like, you know, I don't really like them, so I'm going to go. Like, you can't convince me that this isn't going to affect players coming to Chicago, and they're in the search of a brand new GM. You have to think that just tanked a lot of people, like, pulling their hat out of the ring.
Yeah, I mean, look at like you got a struggling team already. There's a struggling team on the ice, and that's already building onto like the stress is already building on to guys like Kane, Taves, Seth Jones.
Right, exactly.
In the middling, like not the middling years, but like they're at the end of nearing the end of their primes. Their last 5 years have been wasted on this team, and like if I'm anyone on this team, I'm lining up at the door, Davidson, like get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah, no,
like,
seriously.
Because it is a waste. Like you have all that stress. And not even stuff that you're doing wrong at this point, since the franchise is doing wrong, the owner upstairs, and it's all building onto you because your play sucks, your organization sucks, your coach sucks, everything sucks.
Even if you're like a guy like DeBrincat, who's like he's a superstar and he's young and he's vibrant, and then you're looking at like your owner publicly, like this is the response we're having. Like I hope not, but I could see him try and get out of here. Like,
if I'm a player, I'm like, I don't
why
care
would you want to
play? Yeah. I'm asking, like, I will waive my no trade clause to get out of here
for sure.
Like, there's just not something you want to be a part of at the moment. Like, as much as it hurts me to say, like, being a Hawks fan, it sucks, but it's reality. Like, I'm looking as an outsider right now, and who would want to be here?
Well, Nick, nobody loves the Hawks more than you and I.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of truth in that. And yet right now, I think that it's on fans like us where it's like, wow, I know we've been grappling with this for like a week of like, I don't know about watching games anymore. I don't know about like supporting this friend. Like I'm completely shaken to my core, and it makes me feel like an idiot for trying to do the mental gymnastics to continue standing by this franchise when they repeatedly do things like this to make me look like a schmuck.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to split like the players and the organization
because I love the players.
I'm
invested in the players.
Yeah.
Like
they're all tied in. Like if the team's doing good on the ice, the owner's making money, and it sucks. Like, and then like you said, you tied in the. I know we're gonna get in the GM search a little bit, but like again, like who is looking at this job right now? Like, oh yeah, I want to report to him.
That's me. Like I can do that.
Like nobody wants to be here.
This seems like a guy that wants to hear my new opinions.
Yeah.
Like,
and if you're a fan that wants to jump ship, I can't blame you.
I wouldn't. I was 3 days ago. I was ready to. Ready to jump ship.
It's hard not to blame you at this point. Like everything, it's just like the team sucks. The ownership sucks. We have no accountability. We have no leader. Like there's just everything's going downhill. It's rock bottom,
and it's the bottom keeps opening up.
Yeah, it's just like oh, okay, we hit the bottom. Nope.
You think you can't get lower, and they just get lower.
It just keeps plummeting.
Now that said, in the question of have they learned from this and what are they doing? One of the things I think we need to bring up, and I hate going out of turn, and Jordan, I know you typically drive the ship. That said, it's on my mind, and I think it segues naturally into this. A report came out that in October of this year, there was a report surfaced yesterday that the Blackhawks had fired a longtime Rockford Ice Hogs head athletic trainer following a report of sexual harassment. So that's what it was. After the Jenner and Block investigation findings were made public, a former Ice Hogs crew member came to the organization the following day with a report of an incident involving this head trainer in 2014. They suspended him, did a 5-day investigation, and fired the guy like a week later. That is the stuff that makes me sit back and go like, okay, when left to the people like Danny Wirtz and Jamie Faulkner, like the people that want to move forward, it's one thing for Rocky Wirtz to want to move forward by ignoring the past and just bulldozing, going around it. Danny and Jamie seem to be understanding that the only way out of this is through it. You face it, you make the changes. And the fact that they took this they took this allegation seriously, they immediately suspended the person, did the investigation, and then fired them. Like, that already is a huge step in the right direction. And this person coming forward, I think there's a lot to be said that they're empowered by Kyle Beach and being able, that all of a sudden, hey, wait a minute, if I come forward, maybe something could happen. And it was good. It's refreshing to see that. I wish it had been reported on when it happened, but I sort of get why you don't report that stuff and you just deal with it professionally. But the fact was it was dealt with professionally, which makes it even worse when Rocky Wirtz, who's the owner, behaves in such an unprofessional manner.
You talking about Danny and Jamie
Faulkner. Yep.
Jamie Faulkner, and how like you got to push through, you got to keep going. It reminds me of the Winston Churchill quote, being the history teacher.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're going through hell, and this organization is going through hell right now,
this is it.
Keep going. Like,
yeah,
you have to push through, because there is going to be, if you do the right things, like you talked about, they said they have a mental health thing available for players, zero tolerance things put into place. Like, you should have let Danny talk.
Yeah.
That question would have just, we wouldn't have nothing to talk about from the town hall. Just like, okay, they had a good town hall. They gave some good answers. They spoke to the reporters fine. But the fact that he had his little tantrum and
it completely overshadowed everything
and treated his son like that.
It was so
That's
gross.
Another thing. Like, I would never do that to my son. But go ahead, Jordan.
So Rocky Wirtz got asked about, what have they done? What are they doing? This whole thing with Rockford. Great. That's an answer right there. What 100%. Are you doing? Point to this scenario right here. This is what we're doing.
But again, I'm sure all he thinks of in that situation is, well, we can't bring up that we had another thing pop up, even though, hold up, isolated incident, completely different. And then you addressed it. But I don't think he has the comprehension he doesn't have the nuance in his mind of this to even see anything like that. All he sees is another nightmare, which again, led to the first thing happening, frankly. It's even if Rocky Wirtz didn't know about it, he is complicit in the culture that created a monster that, even if he was buffered from it, he set the example of what to do. There's a guilt by complicitness in there, if that makes sense. It's the bar was set so low, and all we were looking for was accountability, ownership, and just what are you going to do?
It's like he had so many answers he could have given. Like you said, it was a softball. We've said it's a softball.
Easy.
It's like you put Shohei Ohtani at a T-ball game. The phenomenal player right now, and he struck out. Like, how do you strike out a T-ball? And Rocky Wirtz just struck out a T-ball.
I mean, listen, some of us weren't very good at T-ball.
I'm sorry, Tim. I'm sorry I'm bringing back,
Yeah, I knocked over the tee a couple times, frankly. They put me in the outfield, calling it a day. But no, absolutely. This should have been, and this would have been the easiest answer in the world. Danny Wirtz.
Answers. There's so many options you had.
But Danny Wirtz has shown accountability and ownership. He's somebody that hey, we didn't know about this. And Danny wasn't even with the organization at the time, but he's like, yo, this is unacceptable. We're going to take steps to make sure that this never happens again. And we own it. We set the tone. Awesome. I love that. But every time something like the Rocky outburst happens, it undermines all of the good things. The rest of that town hall was meaningless from then on.
You remember the negatives more than you do the positives.
Of course, it's the way our brains are wired.
Exactly. Question. Has Rocky said anything since the outburst?
Yes.
Okay.
He's issued 2 apologies.
Directly to Laz and Thompson, right?
Yes. From what I understand, he sent an email that was forwarded by Jamie Faulkner to Laz and Thompson. At least.
Yeah, it was forwarded. It was forward this to them.
So, man, that feels so gross. That's not an apology. And also,
Jordan, can you tell Tim I'm sorry about the T-ball thing?
That's like saying I'm sorry you made me angry. Like,
yeah, I'm sorry that my outburst may have upset you. Like, yeah, it's garbage. That's not an apology. And again, it's a lack of accountability and ownership. And he did come out and like they posted a PR apology statement, but they've all felt very hollow. I don't know if you guys remember when Bowman issued his goodbye letter to Chicago that was a pseudo apology, like, this is my situation. Mm-hmm. I thought reading the report that Bowman made it out relatively unscathed, frankly, but when he did his apology, it was all, well, it was this person and that person and that person, and there was no accountability on his part. All he would have had to say was, you know what? I should have been stronger and stand up in this. I knew it was wrong and I allowed it to continue regardless. And that made me say, you know what, Bo, you had one last chance and you blew it. Rocky Wirtz, even in his apologies, has not once took ownership. That's messed up for an owner of an organization.
Yeah, accountability seems to be very lacking, like, consistently throughout this organization.
And that's been our issue from, I mean, my God, you trace it back scandal-wise, not even the Kyle Beach thing, but like the Bill Peters thing in Rockford. Yep. Like, we've had a series of things where it's like, if anyone took any accountability here, and it starts at the top.
Yeah, and I mean, they learned from their owner, I guess, so.
Well, again, organizational culture as a whole, it is, you can have, I talk about this in organizations that I've worked with and that like I've coached and whatnot. If you say, hey, we believe that our employees should, not be on all night, they should take their lunches, they should clock out at 5 or whatever. And yet you're not you're scheduling things on your lunch, you're, up all night. You're putting people in these situations where, okay, you might say that's the culture, but you are setting the culture. And Rocky Wirtz has set the real unspoken culture of the organization. And until that changes, no amount of words is going to change that.
Yeah, I think I like what Danny says. I think what he does.
I'm a big Danny Wirtz fan. Yeah.
I think if there's any way to right the ship, it's to give him the keys to this in general. Like, just Rocky, make your money, just go sit at home.
Go sit at home and play with your toys because you're out, buddy.
So yeah, I mean, tough time. It sucks.
It's not good. Like, I'm not having fun right now. And like, even when we were really bad a couple years ago, I was at least still it was the moral victory year. It was little victories. Like, we could pick apart things. I'm not having fun.
I mean, we've got a GM search going on right now.
Well, we sure do.
Peter Chiarelli.
Jordan,
don't you dare breathe that
Jordan,
into existence.
You want to go through the list of names that the advisory committee has gotten to talk to so far?
It's actually
let me pull this list up.
Please pull the list up.
What if Rocky just makes himself GM? Chairman, owner, GM.
Then I am officially a Rangers fan. I'm done.
It's all right. We'll accept you over in Wings World.
I feel like I'd feel so gross in Wings World.
Joe
Valeno gave Taze a concussion. I'm still not cool with it.
He's got a chiseled jaw, though. I mean,
you're not wrong.
So we mentioned the Hawks are already in like a general manager search. The Hawks, I mean, I guess it is transparency, but they've announced some of their candidates who they've interviewed for general manager positions so far this search. You've got Peter Chiarelli, the guy who absolutely.
Why are we starting with him?
Because I'm going to start you at the bottom and take you up a little bit.
Yeah, it's got to start with Peter Chiarelli because we've got to have a foundation to build on.
Nick, when you're going through hell, just keep going.
We've been going for years.
Sorry for interrupting, Jordy. Go ahead.
You've got Peter Chiarelli, the guy who absolutely wrecked the Edmonton Oilers, who traded away Taylor Hall and could not make a contender with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
Also blamed Tobias Reeder for not making the playoffs. So, like, This guy's got tons of accountability.
I think he traded Sagan after a Stanley Cup run too.
Yeah, because he was Boston's. Oh my God, he got booed out of Boston. He got booed out of Edmonton. Oh, but we'll take your scraps because we're at the bottom of the heap right now.
What was this quote on Tyler Sagan in Boston? I'm not sure he fits our culture.
I don't know what culture that. Yeah,
well, that's why Peter Chiarelli loves us because we've got none.
So it starts with Peter Chiarelli.
And it ends with pain.
They interviewed Jeff Greenberg.
Now, give the people a little context on Greenberg.
Okay. So was it the Cubs GM?
He's the assistant GM
for the Chicago Cubs.
We'll go into detail after.
And then we'll talk. Yeah, because we'll never get through this if we keep interrupting.
Yeah.
Who was the other one? They have one more, right?
They interviewed Malaby. What's his name? The Montreal.
They interviewed Tolsky from Carolina.
That I'm very excited about.
Obviously, Kyle Davidson has got
Kyle Davidson is he's the acting GM right now.
I think he's the Canadians guy, Malaby. I'm trying to find him.
You're gonna get Pete Davidson.
Listen, I'll take Pete Davidson.
Yeah, Scott Mellanby.
Yep, Scott Mellanby. Which he's probably my second. Well, no, he's my third because I like Davidson a lot.
All right, so the list is Peter Chiarelli, Eric Tolsky, Scott Mellanby, Kyle Davidson, Jeff Greenberg.
And that's just who's been interviewed so far. We don't know the full list, but
yeah, that's with the advisory committee of obviously Danny, Jamie, Patrick Sharp, Marian Hossa, and Eddie Olczyk. I mean, so one by one, I think all four of us are consensus saying if it goes the Chiarelli route, this is it. Like we're done. Like he's single-handedly destroyed the Edmonton Oilers. Like Jordan said, the Bruins, he traded away a superstar in Tyler Sagan, who was like 22 at the time.
Such a stupid move.
Patrick Kane doesn't resemble the culture we have here in Chicago.
Kane kind of does.
So I mean, yeah, Chiarelli. If that's the route they go, I'm gonna be sick to my stomach. I mean, Tim, what are your thoughts, real quick, on Chiarelli?
When the Hawks talked about opening up this GM interview search, they talked about outside the box thinking. That excited me. I love the idea of breaking out of the cycle of the same retread people. Like, there's a reason they've been fired from, they wore out their welcome at all these places. Like, get something new voices.
You interviewed a baseball guy.
We're going to talk about that. But like, then you get to Chia, who is like historically a putz. And then, I don't know, it's like but I talked about this right before we got onto the show. My only feeling of like saving grace here, this committee wants to get a lot of different opinions. You can't only look at outside the box, modern thinking ideas. You want to get a blend of different interviews, a blend of different candidates, different ages, different experiences. Peter Chiarelli is realistically a good person to interview because he has a font of experience. He's worked with different organizations. Even if this committee has no desire or inclination to actually hire him, it's not bad to have the interview to get a sense of, because you might even pick up something from him that you didn't realize you wanted to focus on. That is the only thing that I can say, because I think he's the absolute worst possible person that we could have as GM. But I think I can understand the interview to get a blend of different opinions and experiences, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it's always good to get a insight on where other people around the league see your team at, even if it's not the guy you want running the organization.
Right. You
just want to see like where his thoughts are about it. So yeah, it's good to see. I mean, yeah, he was a shit GM, but like, I mean, sometimes you just need to know where you're viewed at around the league, and it's rock bottom still.
He's an executive with the Blues now, right?
Yes, he's with the Blues, who are obviously a pretty good team. So
yeah, I mean, it's not bad to do. The interview is not going to hurt anyone, and the interview is non-committal, all that jazz. I cannot imagine any way that he's actually the person. And I say that now, and I'm gonna cry if
wait till tomorrow. News always breaks after we record.
Yeah, don't I know it? I'm dreading it. But that's where I'm at with Chia. Greenberg is interesting. Nick, let's talk about Greenberg.
Yeah, so Jeff Greenberg, assistant general manager of the Chicago Cubs. This is the one that really sticks out to me because, I mean, it all goes to what Danny Wirtz said about thinking outside the box. And we've seen this in other sports too. We've seen baseball guys go work in football.
For sure.
I don't think I've ever seen it in the sport of hockey. And
I mean, we took McDonough from the Cubs.
Well, yeah, but like that was
a marketing and business. I'm just being an idiot.
No, yeah, that was president wise, but like for a front office executive, I don't think I've ever seen that kind of transition. And when it comes to like just a simple Google search of his resume and what his experience is, like the guy's never worked in hockey. Like he's been a baseball mind through and through. And I think if they do go the Greenberg route, because of what Jed Hoyer, like he's been he managed Jed Hoyer, and like looking at the teams he's worked for, this is a guy you're bringing in if you're tearing it all down and going for the full rebuild. The guy worked for the Cup is the assistant GM for the Cubs right now. He's worked for the Pirates, and the Diamondbacks as well. So like this is a guy, if you're bringing in a new look and you want to just reset the tone of this franchise and you want to go somewhere else in a different direction, this is a guy you bring in who's been through rebuilds and is going to tear this whole thing down and start from scratch.
Unless now, what if this is the guy that you bring in because he has very specific skill sets on contract and cap management, analytics, different things that might translate to negotiation, hockey, and the management side. They've talked about restructuring. Just because the GM is the highest position for hockey ops, reporting to Danny, that doesn't mean that he won't be surrounded by, say, an Eddie Olczyk as an advisor, or like scouting. You'd still have oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Who is the phenomenal scout person that we have?
Mark Kelly.
Yep, Mark Kelly. Like I have a feeling Mark Kelly in that position raises up, and now he's the VP hockey op, whatever it is. You surround. If they see something in Greenberg that could translate into cap analytics, different like alternative thinking on how to build a team, and you let the actual skill sets and components surround it with people that can find all that, so, give them a court, give them a group of people that can advise, that is a possibility. And that could provide the alternative thinking that we're looking for, an outside mind, an outside viewpoint. I'm with you. I agree that like this, I don't think this is the right choice. We want someone who has a hockey background, especially with so many talented and unique minds within the hockey world. We don't need to go out to another sport. Give somebody a chance that has that background and maybe is an outside voice or an outside thought process. But I think this is a unique concept. And again, it goes back to my thing with Chia. It's not a bad idea to interview somebody from completely outside the sport, but knows Chicago and knows sports. That's like, this is where we're at. What are your thoughts? Where are we at? How can we manage this? I think it's a unique interview perspective.
Yeah. I mean, this is no coincidence either. There's a connection here too between the Blackhawks and Greenberg. Jamie Faulkner, who's obviously president of business ops for the Blackhawks. Her husband is executive vice president of sales and marketing with the Chicago Cubs. So
nice.
There's a connection. Right. There's the connection there. I think if you're going to go the Greenberg route, you do need to surround him. Maybe keep this board of a Sharp, Hossa, and Olczyk.
I think that's a great idea. Eddie O should be within the organization as some sort of senior advisor. In my mind.
Yeah, I think Mario Terabasi was saying, he was quoting Elliot Friedman Elliot mentioned that Eddie Olczyk needing to become part of the organization in a hockey ops role.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, I think it's needed. But if you're going with an outside perspective of a guy from baseball, you need to surround him with hockey minds. I think Olczyk needs to be there, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go this route. We see
Hossa would be phenomenal for sure.
Right, and if they do go this route, maybe they end up bringing in a president of hockey operations. Like they're planning on leaving the role empty right now, but we'll see.
I think if it's Davidson, they leave the role empty. I think if it's a surprise hockey mind that we end up getting, then they'll leave it empty. But I'm with you. I think if it's end up somebody like the outside, it makes more sense to have a pres of hockey ops.
Jordan and David, you guys have any thoughts on outside mind?
I mean, honestly, I actually kind of like the idea of Greenberg. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Moneyball, but the way that baseball looks at analytics and the way that hockey looks at analytics, it's two completely different ideas. Like hockey is a possession-based metric system for the most part. Baseball is like a hits and on base metric system for the most part. Baseball, you're kind of trying to look, how do we chain enough runs together to get, X amount of wins. Hockey, you're looking at how do you get enough goals to get wins. Mm-hmm. And I feel like with baseball, you're looking at more variables. Like you're forced to look at like bigger sample sizes of data, which you're not necessarily expected to do in hockey. And you have to do a little bit more digging into like the analytics on how can you make these runs, which translate to wins, all fit inside this cap versus in hockey, you can have a player who their goal total varies, 10 to 15 goals a season, some of these guys. And so it's really fluid in that way versus baseball. Stats tend to be fairly consistent. Like, you're looking at over, what do they play? Like 160 some games a season?
162. Yeah.
Yep. It's a lot of games.
At that point, your stats are going to be pretty consistent over a 162 game season. You might go on a cold stretch here or there, but for the most part, after 162 games, you know what a player is.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, like someone who looks at data like that, who has to handle contracts on that sort of a basis, that's something that you want in your organization. A guy who has to look at, hey, I might end up burying this guy down to the minors, paying him big dollars. Like, that's not something you usually see in hockey, and I think it's something kind of valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like outside the box thinking. How long was he assistant GM for the Cubs?
He's ever since Theo retired. Or no, I think he's been there. Hold on.
He might have been with the organization.
Yeah, I think he was always. Hold on. I gotta pull it up.
That's fair.
Go ahead.
So he's been learning and helped build the Cubs to what they were.
He's gotten to observe, a lot of, and he's been a part of.
He's been with the Cubs since 2012.
Then he's been with the.
Then he was there rebuild, as they built up,
run,
which is a good thing, and he's been in Chicago since 2012. He knows the people of Chicago too.
There's a lot to be said about that.
I like it. Partial to Chiarelli because he got.
I'd rather have Greenberg than Chiarelli for sure.
But you put guys around him that know hockey. I think their minds combined could possibly create some good stuff for you all.
That group chat would be insane too. Be like, yo, who we trading tonight, boys?
What was our big knock on Bowman? Like, he knew how to find people. Like, he had some good hockey mind stuff, but like a lot of his contract negotiation was not good. A lot of his cap management was frustrating. A lot of his bad moves and trades were stemmed from cap management and the negotiation side of things. It'd be interesting. You can surround yourself with hockey minds.
Yeah, you can have one guy make trades and the other guy go do offers.
Yeah, there's no law that says you can't. This could be interesting.
Scott Mellenby, I really don't have much input on. He's not a name that really attracts me.
I don't like the name Scott either. It's okay.
Don't tell Scott Powers. That said, I will say he's probably the middle of the road, the safe pick. He's not going to be offensive, like, which is not what we need.
The Hawks don't need safe right now.
We can't.
You
We
need to swing. You need to swing.
Yeah, he's just a guy. I think he's one of those interviews like Sherrill. He's been around the game for a while. And
he's good to interview. Would be good to have in a front office.
Yeah,
but I don't think he's what the Hawks need for where we're at and where we need to go.
Davidson, we already hit on last week. We think, I think he's still the face.
I think he's still.
Maybe.
Well, he's my number 2 because I do.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Eric Tolsky is the guy I'm talking about. Assistant general manager in Carolina for the Carolina Hurricanes. He is. I mean, from all reports of what I've seen, he's next in line when.
Zito?
No, Fair. Is it?
Oh, I'm thinking. Yeah, never mind.
But yeah, he's next. Don Waddle.
Yeah, because Zito's Florida Panthers. Never mind.
Don Waddle is currently GM of Carolina, but he's 61. And they've been grooming this Tolsky guy for a while. He's a young hockey mind. And obviously we've seen what the Carolina Hurricanes have become.
Yeah, they're a perpetual wagon these days, which was not a thing for Carolina for a long time.
So with a young hockey mind like that, he does a lot for that organization and you see the team that they are. Like, that's a guy that you want. Like, he's young. He could do this. Like, he could build a fresh start here with young guys, late draft picks, you name it. I mean, along with guys like Mark Kelly, who we already have implemented in this system, like, imagine the talent they could swing together, and it just gets me excited, especially with he's young, which he has that fresh analytics.
Exactly.
He's not just I need to see it on ice. Like, he could see it, and he could translate the analytics to all that, and it's something to excite me.
And he's got an underdog mentality because he's not coming from an original 6 or like a Canadian team. He's coming from a non-trad market. Like, the Hurricanes have not historically been a big deal. Aside from like their Stanley Cup in 2006.
2006, yeah.
Yep. Aside from that, shout out Cam Ward. But other than that, they haven't been a big deal until like the last couple years. And all of a sudden they've drafted, they've traded, they've free agented, they've navigated this wonderful core that has a great chemistry, has a unity, has an identity. Like, the culture that team has when they bring it out onto the ice is so exciting. You can't help but be a part of that, or you're soon not a part of the organization.
And this is all with a small market team too. Like,
That's exactly it.
Their ownership does not let them, the salary cap's at 81.
It's like 81 million or something.
They're not a spend of the cap team.
No, they're not spending up to the cap. Imagine with the extra resources here. Like, you get, hey, go to the cap, even though Rock.
You've got the keys to the castle. Like, go for it. Like,
but regardless of that grumpy old man, but hey, go spend my money. Go bring me a winner. I want to make more money. But yeah, Tolsky is my. If you would have asked me last week, I was banging the drum for like a guy like Chelios, but Tolsky is my odds on. Like, he is who I want to take the job.
Hey, I want to pitch something to you though. Greenberg with advisors Chelios and Olczyk.
I gotta do some more research on Greenberg.
Yeah, no, me too. I don't know enough about Greenberg. That said, I think right now Tolsky, Davidson, Greenberg are my, out of the people that we know, because I just don't care about Melody. I don't need a middle of the road safe GM right now. Not when we're in where we're at.
Yeah, in the trenches.
But that's where I would list everyone right now, because you're right. Tolsky gets me optimistic and like excited about things, and man, I need that right now.
What is our team with like a real? What are the guys with the real GM think of this search?
Oh yeah, the guys with a legendary player / GM.
Plus Nick Lidstrom is his.
Is a side partner.
That's you again. You put Hossa and Olczyk in. That's what I'm saying. But like, no, go ahead.
Sean Horcroft just got.
Yeah, he just got promoted actually to a different organization. He got his that was
Verbeek.
So Verbeek got promoted to a different organization. Sean Horcroft just got promoted.
He's the AGM / GM of the
Grand Rapids Griffins. Yep.
God, it just it feels good to have one in ownership that takes care of their city. Mike Ilitch paid Rosa Parks rent for over a decade. Like, good human beings. Little Caesars Pizza. Not only is it delicious, but it's
hot and ready.
hot and ready. We have probably one of the smartest minds in hockey steering the ship right now.
All right, David, now don't kick them while they're down.
Yeah, good. Stop it. We're dead already.
I'm just saying what your guys thought. Your thoughts are like a guy like Tulsky. Jesus.
Yeah, David. There's salt in all these wounds.
I mean, my top two, because Davidson, he's all right. I don't know if he's the answer. My top two are the way left field outside the box Greenberg, and he's not a safe bet, but I think he's a smarter bet, because like the safe bet you guys said was
Malaby.
like he's boring. Wonder Bread, boring.
Yeah, milk toast,
milk steak, jelly beans. Tulsky.
That's fair.
One of those two. If you pick one of those two, I'd be happy.
Me too.
For you.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, Tulsky, he's been with the Hurricanes for, I think it's 8 years now. So, like, he was there when they were really rebuilding.
Yeah.
And when they were not good. And he's been part of that organization as they've built up to right now, where they're a real Stanley Cup caliber team. Like, and the other thing is, like, I don't know how much of a hand he's had in building the Hurricanes. I mean, I'd have to assume some. He's the assistant GM.
Yeah.
But the Hurricanes aren't a top-heavy team. That's the other thing that's really interesting. It's like they're a truly balanced organization. Like, their defensive group, I think, is their big, their bolstered point. But
team's good.
They're deep throughout their lineup. And if the Hawks want to get back to that spot of being a perennial cup contender, you need a guy who's going to build your organization that way. And again, Tulsky's been around the Carolina Hurricanes for 8 years. He's been through a rebuild already, and he's made something big happen, which is what they're seeing right now.
To me, Tulsky is the exciting appointment. Greenberg is the intriguing appointment.
Okay. I can get down with that. Yeah. No, I would say I feel the same way.
I mean, like, either Tulsky or Greenberg, I think, would be the two. Like, if the Hawks are really willing to not play it safe, I think one of those two would be the option. But like I said, I don't think that they need to play it safe right now. I think they should be trying to get something different.
There's nothing to be gained by playing safe. If we're playing safe, keep Davidson. Mm-hmm. Because at least there's a trajectory and understanding there. And I do like Davidson. I have no reason yet not to like him. If we're going to get a new GM, it's got to be a unique voice, a new idea, a breath of fresh air, not the same old.
Yeah, not these recycled names that continue throughout their whole career. Like, yeah, it's an organization hop. But yeah, I mean, obviously this, I think we're going to be seeing something done real soon. They said they wanted to get this done before a couple weeks before the trade deadline so they could analyze and commit to this team. So I'm hoping by next week this is all over. Like, I hope
that would be a dream.
I hope we have a GM. Like, I'm sure Tulsky's on their finalist. But I mean, there's probably more names that we haven't heard of yet that they also have to go through an interview.
When does the trade deadline end?
It's March this year.
Yeah, it's in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have time. It's not going to be like my soccer team where they appoint their manager on deadline day, but we brought in 2 players. So.
I was going to say, Everton did a good job, honestly.
Night and day, different team.
Yeah, Saturday. It's very exciting for you.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll see in the next coming weeks. This is going to be obviously, hopefully, nothing else bad comes out.
See, we had a little happiness in this depressing downer of a topic.
And that's where I said this before the show started. If we had done this podcast the day, like in the following days, the aftermath of the town hall, I would have burned it all to the ground.
You'd have been Milton in Office Space, just burn it all to the ground.
Yeah, frankly, this allowed me take a step back, reevaluate, pick it apart and like come back with a more nuanced approach. I am disappointed. I'm upset. I'm frustrated. And I would not fault any single fan, no matter how long they've been with the organization, from taking a step back or just outright leaving. That said, they have bought me just a little bit more time. And I'm going to feel like an idiot when the next thing comes out. This is not a great relationship right now, but I have seen Danny Wirtz, this GM search, Jamie Faulkner. There is enough going on that's positive that I can feel not like a bad person by not standing by, but like continuing to watch a franchise that I have always loved, that has always brought me and my family so much joy, even if this current management and ownership and all that jazz is sort of spitting in the face of all that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Dave, you said there's like a happy moment, but I mean, realistically, is it like we're celebrating a resume change essentially right now? Like this is as high as it gets for a Bears fan. Like, yeah, we're happy.
I mean, we celebrated the regime change in with the Bears.
Yeah, like, I know, but like this is never like when you're going through a GM search, obviously it's never a good thing. I mean, something bad went terribly wrong. So, but you know, I'm excited. I'm excited for this process. I hope I maybe there's new names. I look forward to seeing what possibly else is out there. But I'm hoping that we get to see the finalist list soon, and you know, someone could take over this team and lead us to wherever the hell we're going.
Wherever we're going.
I mean, like that's kind of the thing. Like at this point, the Hawks, I feel like we know with this new GM, whoever they appoint, that guy, I think a lot of fans, and rightfully so, they'll be looking at him and saying, hey, how are you steering this club for the future? And not even just the on ice products. Like
they'll be under the microscope for sure.
They will be. And it's unfortunate because they'll have done nothing to deserve it. But they will be. They will be under a microscope, not just on the ice. It'll be what's going on in the locker room with training staff, all this other stuff.
I do want to touch on really, really quick, because we said before the show we were going to touch on it. Gary Bettman, not excusing, but because he said like, hey, I don't excuse it, but like this was a very emotional response from Rocky Wirtz. Like there's not going to be any punishment. Like we've all been in an emotional position. I think that's a garbage. Like I'm not excusing it, but I'm excusing it. Like it's one thing to understand actions, but understanding actions doesn't excuse them. This very much felt like I'm not excusing it, but you've got to understand. Like, no.
Gary, I mean, who's the least liked commissioner? Is it Goodell or Bettman? Because
neither. It's baseball.
Manfred.
Yeah, Manfred.
By a heartbeat.
Yeah, easy. And I think Goodall might be second.
Yeah, Bettman leans into it.
Bettman plays the heel very, very well.
I think he likes it. I think he actually likes it.
I mean, what does he say? Like, hey, congratulations, Vegas, you booed me. You're officially in you're a hockey town. Like,
yeah.
Great. It's almost like the WWE.
You love it. You love to see it.
But I think it's something important to point out that this behavior in Chicago is not unique. And Bettman's comments and his lack of punishment there helps show that like Chicago is facing its reckoning now, but this is all around the league. Like we are not the only people, and the board of governors, the commissioner, whoever it is, it's all so entrenched in this old way of thinking. We have a long way to go in hockey. We have a long way to go in the NHL. And that's something Jamie Faulkner talked about, being a tighter, a more positive influence on like youth hockey. She's like, if we want to change the culture in hockey, it's too late at the Blackhawks level. We've got to focus on youth hockey as well, which I love that idea. But there's a lot that has to change. And I think it starts with like Bettman too. And not just Bettman, but like the league as a whole.
Yeah, I didn't really expect much.
No, I didn't expect a punishment.
I didn't expect. Yeah, I mean, it's an internal issue. Like, what are you gonna be mad because an old man yelled at a cloud? No.
Yeah,
I might.
Yeah,
but usually when the old man yells at the cloud, you take away his keys.
Yeah, you can't take away his keys to the goddamn Chicago Blackhawks. So, no, yeah, I mean, Yeah, I mean, I guess Bettman received a lot of backlash. I really thought nothing of it because
I didn't.
What is he supposed to do?
That's kind of where I was at.
Like what? Yeah, Rocky, you shouldn't have said that. No shit. Like, all right.
Oh, behind closed doors, Bettman's like, why did you talk?
Yeah.
Like, why did you say anything?
I mean, he's heard worse though. He's like at these owner meetings where Bettman.
Oh my God,
there's so much worse said. So this is probably like, oh yeah, that's Rocky.
Yeah, frankly, this was a good day for Rocky.
Yeah.
Like,
this is one of his better days.
I chalked this up as an absolute.
He was on his medication today.
Yeah, he didn't throw anything at Laz.
Yeah, that's the Blackhawks.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Blackhawks. That's where we're at right now, and like, we're all grappling with what that means for us, and that's hard. A couple of days ago, I didn't know if this was going to continue to be a Red Wings Blackhawks podcast for a bit.
Red Wings Vegas Blackhawks.
Yeah, exactly. But like that said, like to every person out there that's a Blackhawks fan, we're all processing this in a different and unique way. And I don't think there's a right or wrong way to process it. So like, if you're the person that's watching the games being like, but I love this team and I love what this means to me, no owner can take away what hockey means to you or like your team means to you.
Oh yeah.
And for the people that are like, I can't continue watching the Hawks. Yeah, you can do that. That's absolutely fair and respectable. Like, I know people that have, and you know what? Yeah, I get it. So like, do what's right for you. Just make it your choice and don't let some bastard make you feel like you can't do something.
I 100% agree with everything you just said because I just personally went through something similar with that with Everton. When they appointed Rafa Benitez, I said, I'm not watching this team. He's a piece of crap. They're going in the wrong direction. And we were going in the wrong direction. I didn't watch a single game until this past Saturday with Frank Lampard.
And like, you love Everton. Like, I get it.
I still talked with all my friends that are like my DC fan club. Like, we have a fan club out here. I still chatted with all them. I went on the Reddit page. I did all this stuff, but I refused to watch that piece of crap coach my club.
Yep.
And that's the thing. Like, two things can be true at once. Like, you can love the players on the ice for the Blackhawks that are playing, but also hate management. Like,
I do frequently.
Like, you can enjoy watching the players on the ice, but hate the coach behind the bench. Like,
but you can also, there is, every one of those things is a valid reason to also stop watching.
Yeah. And that's
like,
also true.
It's whatever makes you
back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this was a really rough week for the Blackhawks and like the fan base. I can't act like it wasn't.
Well, it's just one thing after another where this fan base has repeatedly been just slapped in the face. And I don't know, I have to hope that like sooner or later, it's either going to start to change and we're going to see that tangible change in transparency, or it's just going to hit a certain point where I'm done. Like, but right now it's in that weird, like the last year really has been a weird pocket of like, oh yeah, I'm a Blackhawks fan, but like, I don't feel great all the time saying that. Like, how dare they? Like, how dare ownership and McDonough and all of these people tarnish such a joy from their awful like decisions and practices. I don't know.
It's kind of like your jerseys are in the closet, not in the trash.
Yeah. And that's exactly where it is. Like, I'm not super comfortable wearing a jersey out right now. Like, I've got my little wall of memorabilia behind me, but like, I don't know. It's a weird time. And like, we're all navigating it in the way that is best for us. And I just hope this organization does right by its people and not just its fans, but its employees and its players as well.
I think that's a good note to end this discussion on. Like, stuff's come out. Is at this point, we're going to see what the organization continues to do moving forward, and seeing if they can kind of fix some of the outfall or some of the what's it called?
The fallout.
Sorry, the outfall.
I got you.
The fallout of this town hall this week, because there was some pretty bad fallout. For anybody who's still watching, we're sorry there wasn't really any Wings content this week. Aside from just lack of news, like I said, this was a lot more important than anything going on in Wings world right now. But yeah, that's our show for tonight. As always, if you're still tuning in and listening or watching, please feel free to give us a like, follow, share, whatever on the social media currency, or of whatever sort of social media currency on the platform that you found us on. It helps us grow, helps us, improve. Feedback is appreciated. Criticism, questions for like discussion topics, stuff like that is really nice to have on the show. Every once in a great while, we'll get it. So please feel free to give us that stuff. But again, that's going to be it for our show tonight. For your host, Jordan Scott, and for your co-hosts, David Barnhouse, Tim Stompanato, and Nicola Page, this has been another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. We'll catch you guys all later here next week. And in the meantime, you all take care of each other, take care of yourself, stay safe, and we will catch you back here next week. See ya.